God, it's like being in a DC Thomson canteen. There's so many faces here that I know. Anyway, good evening and welcome to this evening tribute to David Sutherland. WestFest, I'm a member of WestFest, had the idea that it would be appropriate to have an exhibition to celebrate 50 years of drawing Baxter Street kids. Easily said, not so easily done. And we decided that, well, we would go for it. If you don't get, you don't ask. So first of all, we approached DC Thomson's and they agreed that yes, we could host this exhibition. That was fine. And then we thought, venues, framing. And that's where Matthew Jarron and Dr. Chris Murray come in. Matthew and Chris, our two saviours, who just took over and made it all happen. And it's all thanks to them that we're here tonight. And of course, the hugely talented and self-effacing Mr. Sutherland.
You speak about me.
I'm speaking about you. So, without any further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Dr. Murray, who's going to say a few words, and then he will hand proceedings over to Euan Kerr, who was editor of Beano for many years. Chris, okay?
The university is very happy and indeed honoured to welcome David Sutherland and an exhibition of his work. The university is building comics courses and comics research into its profile over the last few years, and recently invested in turning this room over to us for comics exhibition purposes. So this is the second exhibition that we've had in this space, and we use this space to have a series of rolling exhibitions, and there's also a space outside where we house some of the original comic artwork that is part of our growing university museums and archives collections. So we plan to have many more events and exhibitions like this throughout the year and continue with such events. We're very pleased when WestFest approached us with this opportunity to celebrate David Sutherland's work. We very much have close ties with DC Thomson's, and it's an important part of the relationship between the university and Dundee, is celebrating Dundee's culture, of which comics are so much an important part of. So without any further ado, I'll turn you over to you and David.
Alan and Iain, do you want to go and join?
Yeah.
I'd like to introduce these two gentlemen. This is Alan Digby, who was editor of the Beano from 2006 to 2010. Is that right? Right, sorry. Yeah, and Iain, who's acting Beano editor at the moment. So both have written many of the, I reckon, at least 10,000 pages that Dave Sutherland has drawn over the 50 years. No, 10,000 stories rather than pages. A lot more pages than that. So, because Dave's always happier drawing, he's going to get up here and draw a few of the very well-known characters that he's drawn over the years. So, David, if you'd like to come and take your pens.
This is where it all goes.
And entertain the troops.
All goes flat. No pressure about it.
So I'm sure you'll recognise a lot of these characters that David
I'll walk away through the back sheet with his characters. Well, the first one is the usual.
So while Dave's drawing, I'm going to ask him a few questions and go through his career with DC Thomson's and before that, because Dave was born in Invergordon up on the Cromarty Firth in 1933. Hard to believe it's all these years, but Dave's still drawing every day. But sadly, there was a tragedy in Dave's life because when he was only 2 years old, his mother died from a blood disease, and because of this, the family, there were two other older children. Dave's father, because there was no real sort of government support like we would get nowadays, he had to find somebody to help look after the children. So the family moved down to Stirling first of all, and then to Kirkintilloch, where Dave's aunts had a great deal to do with bringing up the youngsters. I think that's right, Dave, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
So, but I take it that you were very young when you found your talent for.
Oh, sorry.
For your talent for drawing. I mean,
I suppose during the war, so aeroplanes and bombs, and kids loved drawing these things. So that's what probably started off drawing airplanes during the war.
So what was your sort of inspiration? Was it comics or
I
other
didn't
artists?
get the comics till later on, but I must have been reading the Dandy and Beano. Oh, almost the first issue, which I wish I'd kept now. But I always remember my dad, before he was called up for the army, he was a joiner, and when the Dandy and the Beano, well, the Dandy came in one day and the Beano the other, we weren't allowed to touch the comics. We had to sit till my dad came home, and then he sat and read the comics. And he gave it to us because we always, kids ruffle things up, tear 2 or 3 pages. So that's why for many years we couldn't read the comic till my dad had read it. So that's quite important in our house. I was reading nothing else, no telly, nothing like that. So in the evening, when my dad was called up, he went over to Belgium during the war. And these 2 aunts who had brought me up in place of my mum, and my brother and my sister. And of course the evening was said, I used to sit and just draw anything. And then we sit and sing songs round the fire, and that was overheating. It sounds terrible, but I don't want any tears. But
I've never heard you singing, Dave, but it sounds
the
a bit like the Waltons.
The singing was the good, but the cold fire was lovely. Everybody had red legs, what they call lazy pattern in those days. On the front of your leg. Remember?
So I understand you went to Lindsay Academy, is that right? And
Yes.
then did they encourage you there to draw?
The art teacher, I'll remember his name, Mr. Allison, and he used to give me paints and crayon and paper to take home. And I suppose the first thing that I did that came to mind was a copy of Gainsborough's Blue Boy. Maybe not familiar with that, and that's what started off the school being interested in, the academy being interested in the fact that I had taken this on board, but nothing ventures when you're young. Hey, let's get in there. And that's how they then started taking interest in me and giving me materials to work with, and kind of singled me out a little bit, which was great for me, but the rest of the class, this guy.
Anyway, and interesting, was your father encouraging, because it's, art was a precarious business, so you made a great career out of it, but...
When I was leaving school, I had enough marks in those days to be a draftsman, or had a good mark in art, in the 90s, which was really pleased about it. And my brother was at that time a draftsman. So my father said, no, none of your arty jobs here. Get a proper job and join your brother as a draftsman. So I applied, and the manager of this drawing office, he said, you're good enough to have you here, but I don't want 2 brothers in the same office. But he said, we have an advertising agency who does all our adverts. Let me have a word with them. So duly, about a fortnight later, I got this interview, and I was 15, and that's when you left school, 15. I haven't the brains to go there onward, but that wasn't there around, you couldn't, if your folks could support you, that was great, but my folks couldn't. I had to get out there and start earning. But anyway, this advertising agency, they gave me an interview, and they said, yeah, I like your stuff. When can you start? Now this was the Friday. I said, Monday? There I was, Monday. And of course, you get lots of artists, particularly cinema publicity at that time, big time. And they did all these massive posters of all the latest films. And used to outline it. And the young lads got to fill in the centres of the letters. And if you crossed the line, you were in big trouble. They didn't hesitate. Oh, you got it. No messing about. And the artist that I was indebted to the head artist, and fortunate for me, but you had to sweep the workspace in the morning, and all the colours were all laid out. You had to have them all stirred up for the right consistency. It was another problem, So I used to have a board on the end of this studio, There were coal fires at either end, I remember. And they had this board, so if you did something wrong, your name went on that. And if there were so many defaults against you, you were stopped some of your pay, which was, at that time, was 30 shillings, or, £1.50. And that was my wages. And out of that had to come a bus fare, which was half of that money. But my folks felt, yeah, keep them going, But when do we get some money out of this young lad? So that went on until the head artist, I loved Walt Disney. And I had Walt Disney books, and at home I used to sit and draw Walt Disney. And so I had shown him one or two drawings, and again allowed me to, this company I was with, they had the copyright for Walt Disney in Scotland. So they thought, right, you could come in and do some stuff. I was then 17, and I got to do more and work, and I used to, around Glasgow.
And these were gigantic boards, weren't they?
Later on, with the cinemas, they had this, they weren't taxed at this time. What killed the whole thing was the tax on cinema entertainment. But at that time, you could decorate all the foyer. If it was a war film, you could have a big scene of the war, whatever the battle was. And in the foyer, all the posts had battle scenes on them. The pay desk had, so the whole thing was changed into a battleground. So I was part of the team that would do that. The big drawings, right outside, they were sealed, waterproofed, and they were put up on the front of the cinema. And some could be as high as 16 feet. So we drew on 4-foot boards by 8 foot. And you only could draw 2, then you hit the ceiling. So you took away the top one, fed the next one up, drew that down, took away that one. You never saw the picture finished until you actually got to the cinema and saw it up on the wall. And sometimes they would say, we don't have the van, could you and somebody else carry it down? So there we were. And if it was windy, 8 foot by 4 foot board, amongst the traffic, taking us down to the cinema. So it all happened,
Yeah, great. So by about 19, you would have been eligible for national service
yes,
about that time, was that right?
Coming to 18, yeah. But I had the medical and everything, but the company managed to defer it for 2 years until I was 20, so they served this kind of apprenticeship, commercial art, and I went to Glasgow School of Art. But it was in the evening, because there were no such thing as day release. You didn't get paid, or your company paid for you going off for it. That just didn't happen. And so it was evening class for me. And I used to take commercial art, life drawing, and layout and design. And did that for 3 nights a week for about 4 years. And I was about 18. And used to do the life drawing. And I used to meet my pals in this local cafe when they come off the bus. They would say, where's your drawings? Where's your drawings? Let's see your drawings. Let's see those nudes. So, yeah, in the life class, we had this teacher who had a big shocking red beard. When you daren't look sideways at, it was like drawing a plank or a dish or a bowl of flowers. That was how you saw it. It was a challenge, and that was it. I'm saying numbers.
Right, but then the national service, you went to Egypt, I know.
I was in Egypt for 2 years. And but I used to continue drawing there, and I became the company sign writer. And I did a copy of, oh my goodness, my brain's eluding me, of the Queen, and it was about 8 foot high, and I did this for just fun. Because you worked in the morning, well I worked in the morning, and you did all the rest of the day off, except if there was any call-outs. So I used to paint. I did paintings for guys, of their wives, in enamel, for 50 pence. But yeah, so I did that, and then this painting of the Queen. So along came the major this particular day, and who's that for? And I thought, oh, it's just for me, so I just want to keep practicing, because when I go back home, I want to be right into that world again. So he says, right, take time off, you finish it, and it's going into the officer's mess. So as far as I know, it's still in Cyprus. It moved to Cyprus. It just, when they moved the headquarters and we left the canal zone, the army went to Cyprus. So as far as I know, it's still.
So when all that was over and you got back, you went back to Rex Studios in Renfield Street?
No, I went out with a guy who worked in the Rex, and he was on his own, and I wanted to sow my wild oats and get around and do other things. The army, I was so fed up being contained, so I joined up with him and we went into business on our own. And it was all right, it was good. And this particular chap, his brother, worked in Spain in the tin mines. So he got a handshake from the tin mines and came back to Glasgow, and you couldn't draw a straight line with that ruler. So he then started to tell me what he thought I should do. Now, his brother was an artist, he was a lettering artist, more an illustrator, which I was, and he started telling me what to do. I said, well, I'm not taking it from you, because you don't know a thing about art. I'll take it from your brother. And if it doesn't sort itself out, I'm leaving. So I left. And I went to a studio, and those days you left one job, there's so many jobs available. You could leave on a Friday and start on Monday at another job, another studio. So I went to this studio, and it was all about whiskey labels and labels for jam, you know, apple. But you had to draw them the actual size of the label. So the one that we inspect, and all the strawberries and the black currants, and all these things were all done at actual size, and the lettering, the wording, for whoever produced the fruit. And they all was done at actual size, and we were all, you know, it really was quite stressed, but I managed to handle all that. And then one day, my wife's mum, she saw this advert. Oh no, beg your pardon. In between times, I've been thinking, I fancied this comic. And I did stuff at King Syndicate Features in America. And it was westerns. Well, I did a few, and then I wrote to them and I said, the money was terrible. And for the hours I was putting in, there was no return at all. And so I said, can you not give me any more money per page? Because it's not worth my time working. And they said, well, we're into romantic, more money in romantic illustration. And I said, I don't want to go about that. So then, my wife's mum saw an advert in Sunday Post, and they're looking for artists, and they're running a competition. And so just the last minute, I came up with knights in armour, you know, young boys with vision of what he would like to have been in the olden days, and write a squire to this knight. So I drew this page, submitted it, and there was 3 prizes for the winners, and I set mine in, and they said, you haven't won any of the first 3 prizes, but we'll be the 4th prize for you. So I got a 4th prize, and they then started to ask me to do little bits and pieces. So we're working from home, just Margaret and I and my folks, we're staying with my folks. And so I started doing stuff there, but working one job during the day in commercial art. And in the evening, you know, our marriage was, so I thought, between us and my artwork, I thought we could buy a house, put a deposit in the house. So I'd mentioned to, at that particular time, the managing editor, a chap called Mr. Lowe, and I sent the letter, had a cram in his editor at the Beano, to say that we were going to buy our own house. And I got a telegram saying, don't do anything, we want to come and see you. So I met them in the Sunday Post offices down in Glasgow, and they said, we'd like to come to Dundee and be beside us. So, which we duly did. 50 years ago, 52 years ago. But, you know, I'm guilty.
Must be a big decision though, to move from, must have been a big decision to move up from Glasgow to here. But, and you kept, but you did keep your foot in another camp, didn't you?
One of the decisions, my wife Margaret and I were living with folks and were so kind, but it wasn't married life. You know, being with your family. You have to have your own space. And that was a part of, say, although it's quite a bit away, Dundee, it doesn't seem much now because of the motorway, but at that time it was single lane traffic. When you got behind a caravan, you were there for 4 hours. So, but I don't regret the move. You know, in between times.
Yes, I'll let you get on with this a little bit. Yeah, but that was, you started drawing for the Beano. I think Danny on a Dolphin was your.
Danny the Dolphin was the first one.
Although the pages you drew first of all were Annie's Got a Gun. Never seen the light of day, I believe.
No, it didn't get further.
They'd be worth something.
But in those days, they used to help young artists. Now I was, how old was I then when we came up? You know what I mean?
Must have been 25 or so.
20.
Yeah.
I came out of the
late 50s.
I was 1954 to 1956. I was in Egypt. So I came out for 2 years, 1958.
Yes.
And sorry, where were we going?
Right. So yes, you were drawing. You're drawing. Annie's Got a Gun.
Oh, Annie's Got a Gun. So that I know where I'm going. In those days, they actually helped young artists. You know, Thomson's. When a young artist came on the scene, they were quite prepared to do little drawings and were paying for it. But they were coaching you, and of course, that doesn't happen anymore. Maybe wrong, but I don't think it happens anymore. So young lads don't get the opportunity to work as I got the opportunity I did. So over a period of few months, we were saying, yeah, that's okay, but that would improve it, the layout, whatever, and your translation of the script, had to learn about that. And, so over a period of months, Harry Crammon nursed me along. I must take my hat off to him for doing that. And then all of a sudden, he said, I think you're on your own now. So that was when I got Daddy the Dolphin.
But you saw yourself as an adventure strip artist at that time.
At that time I was an illustrator because there was good illustrators around, and I didn't think, although I studied Walt Disney, I didn't think I was a cartoonist, you know.
So how did that come about then? How did you start doing the cartoon work? Was that?
Well, had Danny the Dolphin, then Billy the Cat, The Great Flood of London, Cannonball Crack, did a lot of picture story. And each of them lasted 6 months, and then it changed to 7. And what started it off was Dudley Watkins, whom I admire, #1 guy, in my estimation, Dudley Watkins. He was excellent in all the fields, all the departments. A lot of people don't agree with him. But humour, illustrating, colouring, layout, all that, wonderful. So he fell ill, and he was doing Riff of the Bear at the time. And he died. I got word to go up to the office, and they said, we've got this page, and Dudley Watkins has started it. And you had a little pencil layout of the layout of the thing, and I think you've got a couple of years' noses in or something. And could you finish it off? Here's the back of my neck. I said, I don't know if I want to do this. You know, poor Dudley was hardly cold. Anyway, the comic has to have something for it. They can't put out a blank page, you know, and he was working to a deadline. It was very tight to printing, so they really needed something badly. Or the page would have been white, which never would have happened. So I did Biffo, and then Harry said, would you like to take Biffo on? Because, you know, that looks pretty good to me. And from there on, I started doing less picture stories. Unfortunately, David Law, who created Dennis Jimenez, and he fell out. So he said, could you step in, could you do that style? So when we work in commercial art, I've actually learned to adapt to lots of different styles. So I said, well, give me 2 or 3 weeks and I'll surely come up with something, which I duly did. And he says, right, you're doing Dennis Jimenez. So that was that.
And previously, you'd taken over the Baxter Street Kids from...
Was that
was...
what the first one? The Dennis
Yeah, 1962, the Baxter Street Kids.
Baxter first.
Yeah. So,
well, Leo Baxendale, he was the instigator of the Baxter Street Kids and a very talented man. But he left and went to, hopefully make more money in another field and doing annuals and that type of work. And the office, he more or less dropped a bombshell on them, and Harry had said, how about the Baxter Street Kids? How about having a go at that? So we had a go at that, and he said, yeah, fine, it's yours. That's 2 pages, so we're now building up, and I'm seeing less of my wife. Well, I work from home all the time, although I work for Thomson's. I didn't want the studio in Thomson, I wanted to be home. And so I could just work whenever I wanted to. If I wanted to golf or garden, I did it, and I worked, and I was happy. Sorry, who are we going now?
Okay, we're just going back a little bit, but yeah, but it must have been like Wurzel Gummidge changing his heads as he used to do.
Oh, yeah, 2 different styles.
3 different styles, Dudley Watkins, David Law,
right.
and Leo Baxendale. How did you manage to do that? Because it's...
I don't know.
It's just
I used to
magic.
say the comic film was there for the beer time, Baxter Kids time. But then, I think you all noticed that they were actually merging, they were coming.
Took a long time for
Dennis and the Baxter were getting close to each other. The Baxter Kids were kids like Dennis. So it would appear, because initially you have to study the comic and see how Dennis runs, how he falls, how he fights, how he laughs, how he cries. And once you understudy that, and it took me a couple of months to get the hang of the whole thing. And then I felt good enough to get rid of the references and go ahead on my own. And that was when I created my own style was creeping in. But if you gather what I've been saying, I've picked up from poor souls who've died or have left. But these were important characters in DC Thomson's. Aardman, shall we say, these were big characters, and we used to have I don't know if they still do, they still have a poll for the children to vote. Anyway, they had a poll of it every 6 months, and they used to write, the kids used to write in which were their favourites were. And Dennis was the favourite, and the Baxter Street Kids were the favourites. So here was I given the 2 gems. I thought, whoa, how good does it get?
But you had your own special way of working too, Dave, didn't you? I mean, most artists, some work 9 to 5, but that certainly wasn't the case with you. Then.
Well, by this time I had my 2 darling daughters, and I wanted to be around when they were around, and of course they would always want to steal my pens and my paper from me, so I thought, this is not going to work. So I'll draw in the evening, and I'll play with them or whatever they want to do. And that's in effect what happened, and I'm still enjoy working in the evening rather than working during the day. So if the sun shines, I'm in the garden or trying to golf, as you don't tell you. Trying to golf is the opposite word. Now,
but when we're talking about you copying the other styles, I mean, I think Alan and Iain all agree that we pride ourselves that we can tell an artist, which artist has drawn which strip, but I remember having to ask you whether it was you or Leo Baxendale that had drawn certain Baxter Street Kids, and it's, it takes a lot to fool us, so you're the master forger, really.
Yeah, a master forger.
Sometimes you have to look at the way somebody would draw the sun, because nobody goes to the sun. Somebody would maybe use a compass, somebody else would just draw around a little.
Yeah, it takes
such kind of thing, so you can tell a difference how close it was. It's kind of like forensic artwork. So.
I like the question, yes.
And you haven't only drawn the characters in this country, have you? Because your daughter Fiona, who's also an artist, is now
Yes,
in New Zealand, but was in Australia, and you went over there.
She was at Aardman for the usual course and got her art degree from Dr. So she's a sculptor, artist over in New Zealand. She was in Australia for quite a few years, and my wife and I went across there quite a few times. So any money that I earned from Dennis and the Bashers went on Singapore Airlines. So I have another daughter here, that's Lorraine, she's over there, my little darling. And Fiona's over in New Zealand. Now she moved to New Zealand, so we went along, we went over to New Zealand on a few occasions, well, a couple of occasions we've been across here, and lovely, you know, thoroughly enjoy seeing them all.
I remember that we used to get packages of artwork coming over from Australia, but they often had dead mosquitoes on crust on the page.
Who was it? Was it you? When a mosquito had landed, Australia, each year lying, I must tell you, you've got to live in the cities. If you live away from the cities, there's something there waiting to get you. Mars, mountains and beyond, you know. There was one mosquito landed in my drawing board. And I thought, oh, it's got blood. It's my blood. So I got a piece of sellotape, stuck it over the mosquito and the blood.
Well, office off for a couple of weeks.
So, but it wasn't just copying you did, because you did, there were one or two characters that you created yourself, and Dennis's dog Nasser really was transformed by David to the character that it is now, and one of the most popular ones we have. But other ones were, there was the McTickles, I think you began the McTickles,
yeah.
Is that right? The Scottish family.
McTickles, George's.
The Germs, yes, the Germs with ill will, yeah.
The dogs, the Baxter Suite dogs.
Baxter Suite pups, yes, there have been various.
The pups.
I noticed that, it was Baxter Suite birds there, there's been Baxter Suite pups and dogs and beetles and just about everything. They all surprisingly look exactly like the kids themselves. And even in the Baxter Suite Kids, you've added a couple of your own characters. Yes. Well, all of the...
I'll do a run of all in a little minute because there's a story behind her. She's such a lovely person. And
Cuthbert Cringeworth, the teacher's love child. And I haven't added... Yeah, there's these two, but I mean, there's always other characters.
The janitor, he's got the cat as an assistant janitor.
Yes.
Is that always the...
Yeah, no, I think that was probably your addition as well, but yeah. Yes, all of the school cook is based on our old tea lady in DC Thomson, a lady called Olive Milne, and Dave used to rib her mercilessly about the quality of her tea anyway, and so when we had a school cook who was Smithy's aunt Olive, Dave drew just a fantastic likeness to her. Even the way she walked was exactly the way that Olive Milne walked. It was... and she took it as a great compliment, actually.
Well, she used to say, I hate you, what you've done. I'm a good cook. And then sometimes she would bring my tea in, but she knew that I took sugar in my tea, and she wouldn't bring the sugar in my tea. So she got her own back with it, you know. She's a lovely person. She enjoyed the limelight of being all of the school cook, although, I mean, I really slagged her something terrible, but she thrived on it.
And the other thing I'd almost forgotten when I was looking at the frames there was that at one time the Baxter Suite Kids were drawn half up, which is very hard for you to deal with. I'm sure, did you not draw individual panels or something? Or did you have to avoid smudging?
Yeah, 1.5 now. It's 1.25 to draw at now with the Baxter Suite Kids. And It's much more comfortable size, but
Over the years, you've mainly worked from other people's scripts, but have you ever written any yourself?
well, only one script I ever wrote was Ian Gray used to be the chief's son. He's no longer with us now, but Ian was a chap, you know, unique in this world from a broth, and he really, you know, the
character is
character,
even
the
describable.
stalker, you know, not the typical, not even an artist, but he looked at an artist and a writer and director.
He was a minimalist writer though.
Sorry,
He was a minimalist kind of writer.
aye, because this is what I'm getting to the story. I was going and I was saying, he's got a script for me. He said, I'm just working on it, you know, I won't even try and do his accent. And he would go, Dennis fights with Nasha. Nasha fights with the cat. Right, there you are. So, this particular day, I was needing a number for Biff of the Bear, a script for Biff of the Bear. And I knew he was under pressure. I only had about a day and a half to finish that work and get it back up. So he said, I haven't got one. You think of one. Well, at that particular time, we had got one of these do-it-yourself books, Reader's Digest. Assemble anything, you know. So I bought that. I can't assemble anything in this book. So anyway, the story, I said, well, how about Biffle? He has this book where he thinks, oh, in this wonderful kitchen, and wonderful, all constructed by wood and what, do-it-yourself, all these different pictures that he's imagined. He finally ends up by making a shelf and putting the book on it, you know. That was my script. But one and only script. I never got any more after that. No, I didn't want any more.
Dave was a kind of protected species as an artist, wasn't it? Only the chief sub kind of got to write for
That's right, yes. Well, possibly you'll have felt the same. I think probably the happiest days I had were writing Dennis and the Baxter Suite Kids, because it was just the prime job, plus you could get Dave's artwork at the end of it. So
you know, going into the offices, I would enter into all the characters flying about, with artwork up to the ceiling, and you know, just the place looked higgledy-piggledy, but it was lovely to work. I had a great feeling about it. And one day I went into the office and they were all zooming about, and I thought, what's going on? He said, we're having a blue bottle killing contest. And I entered into well, there's one. Hope. Amongst many other things.
Hi David, Nick Park here. I'd love to have been with you this evening to celebrate with you, as I'm such a great fan of your work. I think it's very obvious that all our work here at Aardman has had its influence from you, and since we've been this high really reading the Beano week in, week out, still a massive fan of the Beano, and I just wanted to congratulate you really on 50 years of drawing such wonderful characters, very influential characters as the Bash Street Kids and all the others that you've worked on. I hope it's not too overwhelming to see all your work brought together in this exhibition, but I think it really does represent an incredible career and just fantastic achievement, and just wanted to thank you for it really, from us all here. You know, very best wishes and many congratulations.
So, if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask Dave or indeed Alan, Digby or myself, we'll be happy to try and answer them for you.
Dave, is there anything you don't like drawing?
I don't like drawing. A bicycle. I hate bicycles. Ellipses and all this sort of stuff. And I remember Alan, I must have mentioned casually to him about this. The next script I got was a cycle race through Beano town, and a pipeman coming down the road. Never forget him. These bicycles, you try to get a lot of steam, you know, or smoke, so you can hide a few of the wheels. You get the leading wheel and hide the last wheel. But you learn a little, but yeah, that's what it did to me.
Your pencils are pretty detailed, Dave.
Sorry, Al?
Your pencils are pretty detailed.
Well, on here.
No, when you're working.
Earlier on we used to do detailed pencils so that we know what I was thinking. So we would spend a lot of time in your research and all the thought was taken out of it. We did the neat pencils of the job. Took it into, Rhoda was the editor at that time and they saw what I was thinking about it. Now, Craig emails the script through to me and says, good, get on with it. So I don't see my pencils and occasionally I just don't nail the script. There's some little feature that I should have nailed better. And Craig, hopefully not too often, Craig, he gets round it by altering the words. So he just said, oh, go ahead with it, So I don't really work with the pencils anymore. The problem, no, I said this, right? One day, pencils, we want to see them. So.
As a script writer, you're thought, what's going to bring the best out in the artist? And I know Dave loved plugs, so we used to think up ways of having plug stung by a wasp as he sucked a lemon and things like that, just so we can get the face as contorted as possible.
I was wondering actually, how long do you spend on the composition and the planning of a page? Do you redraft lots of times when you get a script, or do you just kind of intuitively know by now?
I do a little thumbnail sketch of the 2 pages, maybe on maybe a sheet.
You spend quite a lot of time on that.
I just work out where I want the big pictures to be. I read through the script, and one appeals to me as a good picture, to my eye. So I then reduce the other squares accordingly, so this one will take precedence, and you always have a good big last square. So then I feed the rest into it and look for single heads so that I can get expressions on single heads as well.
So do you feel a page has to have a certain rhythm to it?
Yeah, you're kind of balancing between, but I like to get a good big action picture and I have to search. Sometimes it comes at the end, but sometimes it can be in the middle, so you then readjust the size of the squares around that to allow you to have that area to illustrate. And I try and get 1 or 2 heads on their own, and they have expressions with it. I've tasted one of Olive's pies or something. It's oozing smoke.
The script writers are kind of aware of that, Chris.
Yeah.
You just try to take that into account, if the big picture's going to be last, or if it's going to be...
In the short time that the Scottish Centre for Comic Studies has been in existence, we've been very honoured to have talks and workshops from some artists who've really made an immense contribution to British comics, including Iain Kennedy and Cam Kennedy. And when we've had these people at our events, we've often we've taken the opportunity to try and recognise them with a sort of token of our esteem and regard for their work. So we have a little presentation which is just a document which is giving our Scottish Centre for Comic Studies award for achievement in comics. So that's just like to enjoy the exhibition and need to help themselves to tomorrow wine, that would be great. Perhaps you could take a moment to David this evening.
You want me to do it? That's fun, isn't it? Hands on my darling way. You look after that one.
Thanks to everybody for coming along, and we'll be here for a little bit longer if you want to have a word with Dave. And thank you to Dave for his illustrations and for all his work.